Hi, welcome everybody to the Rise Tellus Summit. I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to share with you today 3 steps on impacting the world in a positive way. And in order to do that, I need to step back a little bit and share a story with you from my childhood. So, when I was a little girl, I could be anything. I could do anything. I could have anything. My greatest cheerleader came to me in the form of my father. But that was ripped away from me suddenly when he passed away suddenly when I was 16 years old. And in that moment, I made a decision to stop living. I made a decision to stop loving. And I made a decision to stop taking responsibility for my own life. So for the next several years, I struggled with cocaine addiction, abusive relationships. I mean, you may name a bad decision, I made it. But I always had that entrepreneurial spirit, and I wanted freedom, and I wanted to have a positive impact. And so I studied, I learned, and I followed all of the greats. I soaked up all the things, and I became known as the get shit done girl. All outward appearances showed me as being successful, but I was in chaos, and I was in complete overwhelm. I was, oh, hey, Amy, nice to see you. Yes, I know, it's very sad, very sad. Um, so in this chaos, I had 15 different clients. I was running a successful business. I had money coming in. All outward appearances showed me as being successful. But on the 20th anniversary of my father's death, my family and I had all, actually, I had even helped plan this event. We were all set together to gather in celebration, celebrate my father's life, share memories, do all those things. And I made up every excuse in the book as to why I couldn't go. And I chose not to go to one of the most important events of my life. So I skipped out on it, every excuse in the book. I was too busy. My clients wouldn't understand why I needed to take time off for a celebration of my father on a weekend. I was working 7 days a week, usually 10 to 12 hours per day. I literally just built myself a job. And that to me does not speak freedom. I had managed to get out of cocaine addiction by pulling up my big girl panties and moving on and taking responsibility. I didn't go through formal treatment to become sober. Uh, I managed to get out of the abusive relationships because I pulled up my big girl panties and I moved on because I realized that who I was and what I wanted in my life was more than that and that I deserved more. And so when it came to this moment where 20 years later, I thought I was doing well and I skipped out on this really important event in my life, I realized that I needed to pull up my big girl panties again and take responsibility for my business and my life. So the first step to having a positive impact on the world is pulling up your big girl panties or big boy pants and really just take responsibility. Take responsibility for what you've created in your life. You can tell yourself all these stories about, well, this happened to me, the universe is conspiring against me, and life is happening to me, but it's all crap. It's just a story that you're telling yourself that you believe. So, what if the story was different? What if you were able to realize that you are worth it? You do deserve it. You do deserve to have the freedom and ease that you so desire. I mean, that's why most people in my experience are entrepreneurs, is because they want freedom, right? So if you're tied to your desk, chained to your desk, working 12-hour days, working 7 days a week, is that freedom? I think not. So the first thing you need to do is take responsibility and pull up those big person britches and get clear on who you are and fall in love with who you are. And there's many different ways you can go about doing this. You can hire a coach. You can dive into archetypes and tarot and enneagrams. There's all sorts of different ways that you can tap into this. Maybe you just need to sit down and journal or meditate. Everybody's different, so whatever that looks like for you, but get super duper clear on who you are and what makes you unique, and love on that person like nobody's business. You need to come number one at all times. That might sound selfish to some, but the more you take care of you, the more you fill up your cup, the more you can give and impact the world. So that's step number one, is pull up those big girl panties or big boy pants and get her done. Number two, we need to get our priorities straight. In my experience with many of my clients and who I work with, overwhelm is common. And that doesn't speak to freedom whatsoever. So I have a process that I love to share with my people, and I would love to share with you today on how to get those priorities straight. And I can almost guarantee you that half of your to-do list should be thrown out or delegated to someone else. So I actually stole this concept from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Try to say that quickly 7 times. But his way of doing it is a little bit boring and old school. It's like from the 80s. So I switched it up, made it more fun, because that's how I roll. I like to make things fun and make it interesting. So the first thing you do when you feel that overwhelm rising, where you feel like your to-do list is never going to end, and you have landing pages and marketing, and you got to do social media, and then you got to take your kids to the pool, and you got to do this, and you go, oh my God, are you overwhelmed yet? There's so many things to do as an online entrepreneur. And so by getting your priorities straight, the first thing you need to do is walk away. Yes, I know, I give surprising tips and tricks, but walk away from it all. When you feel that overwhelm rising up in your body, turn off your computer. Just walk away from it completely. Grab a journal, grab a pen, grab some nice music that you like to listen to that relaxes you, light a candle, use essential oils, whatever it is that you need to do to relax. I personally choose to plug in my headphones, put on some really good tunes, grab my notebook and a pen, and go outside on the patio in the sunshine and just sit down and I start writing all the things. I call this a creativity cleanse, or some people call it a brain dump, but you're literally writing. And I like to set a timer for 20 minutes so that you just write for 20 minutes all those things that are rolling around in your head that you just can't seem to put in place. And oftentimes this will take more than 20 minutes. Sometimes you'll get to 15 minutes and you'll kind of get slowed down and you'll be stuck. But what I like to do after that 20 minutes is up is set a timer for another 5 minutes. And you know how when you take a yoga class or you're meditating and they tell you to breathe in, and when you get your lungs full, to just breathe in just a little bit more, and then when you breathe out, when you get to the end, you breathe out just a little bit more. Well, that's the same thing with this creativity cleanse, is when you do the 20 minutes and then you set the timer for 5 more minutes, that's like just getting out just a little bit more, just a little bit. And so you keep writing for 5 more minutes of all the things that are going on in your head. You do not censor yourself. You do not try to categorize anything. You just get it out on paper. And this becomes like this giant master to-do list with all the things, personal, business, spiritual, everything that you need to do. Taking care of your family, all that stuff. So now, great. Now you've got one giant jumbled master to-do list, like we need another one of those. So now what do you do with it? Well, this is where Stephen Covey's stuff comes in. So I've created a quadrant, and I've left the link for a free download that I have of this. It's a 3-page PDF with all the instructions on how to do this and the quadrants, so you won't forget, so you don't need to keep coming back and referring to this. You can always just download that PDF. So there's 4 different quadrants. So in the top left-hand quadrant, you're going to have the 911 quadrant. Now this is all this stuff that should have been done like a month ago, that you've been procrastinating on, you don't want to do. It's the client work that you promised 2 weeks ago that you haven't quite completed. It's the web page that you were supposed to build, but you haven't quite finished all the tweaks on it. It's the calling up your friend to apologize because you needed to do that. Or I don't know, calling up a family member that you haven't talked to in months that maybe you need to reconnect with. It's all this stuff that's like top of mind, emergency, needs to get done as soon as possible. Then on the right hand side at the top, you've got the sanity saver quadrant. Now, this is all the stuff that you want to automate, delegate, or systematize. So, my favorite example of this for online entrepreneurs is a scheduling app. So many times I see people going back and forth in an email saying, well, I can't actually meet at that time, but it could meet at this time. Nope, that won't work for me, but I can meet you at this time. And by the time you've sent 8 emails back and forth, you've wasted over an hour of your time, and it is so inefficient. So I like to use a calendar app called Acuity. There's other ones out there. Calendly is another one. I personally prefer Acuity. I use that. What it is just a link. So you want to book a call with me? Here you go. Here's my schedule. Pick a time that's convenient for you. It triggers an email that goes out to them with the Zoom link, and it also triggers a reminder email 24 hours prior to our meeting so that they don't forget. So that just simplifies the whole process, and it's a matter of 20 minutes for setup to set up the calendar, and then all of your scheduling is automated. So just something so simple as that can save you like 6 or 7 hours a week, depending on how many calls you're booking or meetings you're booking, right? So super important to do that. There's all sorts of stuff that you can automate, delegate, systematize. So when you find yourself doing tasks over and over and over again, create a system. Systems allow you to delegate and send that system off to a virtual assistant, or your kids can even help you out with it, just to get that off your plate so you can focus on the things that are most important in your business. So I'm going to leave that up to you as to what goes into that quadrant. It's pretty self-explanatory. Anything that can be delegated, anything that you hate doing but you find yourself doing over and over and over again, software tools are your friend here, and they can become very, very handy and very, very efficient. Now, I'm going to skip over the bottom left-hand quadrant for a moment and go to the bottom right-hand quadrant, which is the stop doing it quadrant. Now, I'm a huge fan of a Netflix binge, but there is a time and a place for it. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know what I'm talking about. But also scrolling through Facebook. I mean, we can convince ourselves all day long that we're working when we're answering notifications on Facebook. But are we really? There is a fine line there where work becomes distraction, becomes you're not working at all. So there's definitely a fine line there. So look at what you're doing. Maybe schedule personal Facebook time during your lunch break or first thing in the morning or in the evening, and only do business Facebook stuff during the day. Maybe you need to schedule in your Netflix binge, who knows? But whatever it is that you find yourself doing a lot that is taking away from the next quadrant, which I'm going to talk about, that's where you need to adjust. So I'm going to also leave that up to you. You probably know, if you know who you are, you know what you need to stop doing. So just stop it. Then we get to the Magic Maker quadrant. And this is my favorite. The Magic Maker quadrant is where we need to be spending 80% of our time. 80% of our time is spent on marketing, visibility, creating content, developing new packages and programs, developing new services, speaking to our people. For me, meditation goes in the Magic Maker quadrant. Reading my tarot cards goes in the Magic Maker quadrant. Self-care goes in the Magic Maker quadrant. Doing my bookkeeping, administration sometimes goes in the Magic Maker quadrant, but a lot of it goes in the Sanity Saver quadrant. The Magic Maker quadrant are the things that move your business forward. And that's it. So that's where we spend 80% of our time focusing on those things. So great. You've dropped all of your master to-do list, your big brain dump, into the 4 quadrants. Now you have 4 to-do lists. Well, one's a to not do list, so 3 to-do lists. So now what do? Well, you need to schedule it in, because if you don't schedule it in, you're kidding yourself if you think it's going to get done. It won't. It will get put to the side. It will never get done unless you put it in your calendar. So I personally like to color code things. I use Google Calendar. You can change the colors of different appointments in there. So I use blue for all my personal time, and that gets scheduled in first. Again, I go back to point number 1 of taking responsibility and loving on who you are. So your personal time gets scheduled in first. That is self-care time, meditation time, gym time, time with your family, time with your friends, education, learning, expanding, growing. All of the things that you do to move you and yourself forward and to fill up your cup so that you can have a more positive impact. The second thing you need to do is schedule in your work. So I like to color that red. You pick the color. It doesn't matter. You don't need to color code. You don't need to use a digital calendar. Use what works for you. But I like to use my work time as red, so I schedule that in. Client work, client calls, developing new programs and services, content creation, all that stuff gets colored in red. And I like to time block. So I'll say Mondays are my CEO day. That is when I do all my planning. I plan my week. I plan new services and products. I get into my tarot and plan stuff out. I meditate, do all those things. Wednesdays is content creation day, so I do not speak to clients on Wednesdays. I simply sit down and create all the week's content. Tuesdays, I deal with clients. So Tuesdays are all about client connection, getting on calls with people, doing interviews, all that good stuff. So whatever works for you, if you like to spread it out, spread it out. If you like to work in 25-minute blocks, do that. Whatever works for you, but the whole point is to schedule it in. And if you have to set reminders for yourself so that your schedule interrupts you, then do that. But whatever it is, so that the things that are in your Magic Maker quadrant get done. So now you've got your self-care and your work scheduled in. Now you can schedule in little time blocks where you can start working towards getting those sanity savers figured out. So you don't want to try to set all of the sanity savers up all at once, because that'll never work. You want to pick away at them a little bit at a time. So maybe schedule 1 or 2 per week until you get them all in place. The 911 quadrant, and this is where this comes in, I use this creativity cleanse every single week. I do it every Sunday, and it helps me plan out my whole week so I know what I'm doing for the week, and it gets rid of all the 911s. When you get in the habit of using this process, the 911 quadrant disappears because you've scheduled things in, they get done, you stop procrastinating because you've stopped doing all those things you're not supposed to be doing, and you're focused on filling up your cup, and so those 911 things get done. So you will find the 911 quadrant disappears, but in the beginning, when you first start using this process, you will need to schedule those in. But don't try to do it all at once, because dear Lord, you'll go crazy. So just schedule in a couple hours a week where you can plug away at those 911 tasks, get them done, and then your week after week after week becomes 80% Magic Maker quadrant. Your business moves forward. You have a more positive impact on the world. So that's step number 2. Get your priorities straight and get them scheduled in. Step number 3, and this is the biggest one, is to work smart, not hard. In order to run a business online, you need 3 things, and that is it. You don't need all the membership platforms and the fancy websites and all the software tools and all the things. You don't need them. You don't need to be doing what everybody else is doing. You only need to be doing what you need to be doing. And if you are in love with yourself and you know exactly who you are, you know what you need to be doing. And you know how to show up in the world in a way that's going to have the most positive impact and is going to have the best results for you. So again, I go back to getting to know yourself and loving on yourself. Super important. But 3 things. You need content, which equals visibility, which equals, whatever you want to do. If you want to do Facebook, if you want to do Twitter, if you want to do LinkedIn, if you want to have a blog, whatever that visibility is, you need to have content. But I can't stress enough, keep it simple. Simple, simple, simple. The second thing you need is a way to contact. So Zoom, it's free for the most part, unless you want to go for hour-long calls. Allow people to message you on Facebook, or set up a Facebook page where people can message you. Have a contact page on your website where people can get a hold of you. People need a way to be able to contact you. So you've got content, contact, and collection. You need a way to collect money, right? Because if you're going to run a business, you need to be able to collect money. So PayPal and Stripe are the 2 best options out there. I use Wave for invoicing, but those are the 3 tools that I recommend. I personally have used PayPal for the last 2 years and it works fine. Yes, there's fees, it's the cost of doing business, but it's really that simple. You don't need to get all overwhelmed with all of the software and all of the tools out there, especially if you're only 2 or 3 years in. You don't need all the things, and you don't need to be everywhere. The further you spread yourself thin, the less likely that people are going to be able to find you. So find your one or two things. Figure out what it is that you want to do. Move forward with that. Once you've mastered that simple piece, then you can add another one. Master that, then add another one. Master that, then add another one. And then that's how you grow and expand. So I do hope that's helpful. Those are my 3 steps. Take responsibility, pull up those big person britches, get your priorities straight and put it in your schedule, and work smart, not hard. Do not overwhelm yourself with all the things. So I have left a link for that creativity cleanse in the description of this video, whatever device you're watching on. I don't know where it's at, but it is in the description. And please, if you have any questions about what I've spoken about today, or if you'd like to connect, I will be watching the comments in here, so please definitely reach out. I'm always happy to connect, answer questions, discuss anything that I talked about. So thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. It's been a pleasure being a part of this. I am honored. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.